What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I really wasn't planning on doing another video until the floor started getting refinished. That's still happening this week. But in case you haven't heard, I decided randomly to create a TikTok account. And one of those posts kind of is going viral at the moment. Now, I was kind of surprised to me because I was just kind of doing it for fun, and I was actually talking about this house that I'm sitting in right now that you guys, a lot of you have been following the progress since I started this a couple of videos ago. But I kind of blew up, and I really don't understand everything about TikTok yet. I'm brand new to it. I literally created the account the day before. So, you know, it's something that's happened, and you know, it's really blown up the YouTube channel as well. You know, we had around 30 subscribers, something like that, and now we're knocking on the 100 mark, which I'm really excited about, of course. But it's all through, you know, some people that they liked the content that was on TikTok, and now they're, you know, transitioned over here too. So definitely wanted to welcome you guys to the channel. Hope you guys will follow along and get some value out of what we talk about here. But so this is kind of where I wanted to go with the video. There were a ton of comments, as you saw. Some nice, some not so nice, and it's fine either way. But there were some questions that you guys asked, and I wanted to just go through a couple of them. I think I wrote down, I've got them wrote down here, but I wrote down 8 of them, and just wanted to walk through those and just see, you know, see where we go with that. So, question number 1, how did you get started? So, actually really excited about being able to bring that answer and just talk about that, because it's just cool to think back on where we were in 2016. That's when we first bought this house. Man, it's not been that long in years, but we've learned so much stuff from then until now, and I just kind of wanted to walk through that. So, when we bought this house, or just take it back to 2016. So in 2016, I had been saving up cash. I'd been saving up as much money as possible. I lived on basically nothing. I mean, I was making around $800 a week at my job. I was trying my best to live on about $5 a pay period for like lunches and things like that, and put as much as possible into my account so that, you know, we could save up for the down payment on a house that I didn't even know, you know, which one it would be. I just wanted to be prepared. So I had been doing that for about 3 years. About 3 years, I saved as much money as possible. My wife and I, we got completely out of debt. Just kind of got on the Dave Ramsey plan there and eliminated all the debt, all the consumer debt. So, you know, car payments. We had a payment on our living room rug. It was absolutely ridiculous. We were out of control, spending more than what we had, and it was just crazy. But we had debt upon debt upon debt, and it was all consumer debt. So we started off with there. We started eliminating some of that debt. Eventually got rid of all of it. That freed up a bunch of cash that was happening every month. That was going out the door every month. And so that allowed us more money to be able to put into the account. So that's kind of where I started. We sacrificed, you know, and thinking back then, I mean, we're still sacrificing to get to the next thing, but just thinking about how much we were sacrificing back then. All of our friends were driving really nice cars and going out to eat all the time. And, you know, we were making our own dinners and, you know, saving as much money as possible. And, you know, even at work, you know, that was a sacrifice. I mean, a lot of the coworkers would go out and, you know, they'd have lunch every single day, and they, you know, get it from the area restaurants, and, you know, and I'd be brown bagging it. So I'd bring my lunch with me. So a lot of sacrifices in the very beginning, but that was necessary. It was so necessary. It definitely pushed us forward and allowed us to buy this house faster. So fast forward, we saved a lot of cash, and and I'll just walk through the numbers. There's no sense in not talking about that. But the house I'm sitting in now, we bought originally in 2016 for $30,000. With that came about $3,000 down and $7,000 that I had for the renovation. That's $10,000 that I had saved up over those 3 years, just working the job and being sacrificial with some things. So about $10,000 is what I started with, and that's my own money. And so we put the down payment down. The bank that I'd been with for a long time, they weren't interested in doing the deal with me. They said I didn't have enough experience, all of those things. Understandable now that I look back. It was heartbreaking at the moment. But so I ended up going a different route. So I kind of went the creative financing route, and I talked to a private money lender and went in, told him my plan, told him how much money I had, and from there, he wrote a check. He took a gamble on me, and I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for him doing that day. So that's kind of where we started. That $10,000 is what we saved up. We got the house. It was, I'm not going to walk through the whole house, but I do that on a lot of the other videos. But there was carpet throughout the whole house. There was wood paneling in every room, old windows, old doors. I mean, it was just an old, run-down house. And so little by little, we did as much work as we could on our own and hired out some things, the big stuff, the roof I couldn't do back then. The HVAC I'm still not going to do, so we had somebody do that. We had some plumbing stuff, some electrical stuff, a little bit of everything. And actually the HVAC, there was an HVAC. There had never been HVAC in this house. So it had window air conditioners and the wall heaters and all of that. So we had to rip those out, take that to the box, all the wires back to the box, rip those out completely. And we did some things like that to make it nice. We rented that out. We had it rented from 2016 until last year, 2020. Ended up, had renters to move out and decided to do a full remodel. So we took this thing completely down to the studs, and that's what you guys have been following since then. So that's kind of how I started, just being sacrificial, saving money. I was on a budget. Every penny that I didn't absolutely need to pay bills and to eat, that was going into an account so that one day this house would show up. So that's question number one. If you have any more questions about that, guys, just leave me a comment on it, and throughout all of these, and I'll try to be as quick and to the point as I can. But just leave a comment. Let me know if you have any more questions. I'll try to. It's a little easier to do with the channel than it is on TikTok. That thing is it's hard to keep up with those comments because they're coming so fast. So question number two, what is a cash out refinance? So people were asking me that because that's really what the video was about. It was about pulling money out of this house, keeping it as a rental, and then being able to use that money. So a misconception on that video was a lot of people were saying, or were thinking that I was saying, that when you pull the equity out of the house, that you can just live on that. And by live on it, that is what I said, but that's not what I meant. Live on it meant basically you're pulling that equity out, and that goes to the next deal. Okay, so you're not pulling that money out and going and buying a boat. You're not pulling that money out and buying your groceries or paying your bills with it. That equity amount is coming out, and that's what's going to fund your next deal. So rather than going back to the bank and saying, hey, I found this house, what you're saying rather is, I've got equity in this house already. I'm going to pull that money out and I'm going to put it onto that next deal. So that could possibly pay cash for the next deal depending on where you live. Talk to a bunch of people on there on TikTok that live in California, and that's not even going to buy the front doorstep. So that's crazy to think about when comparing to our market. But anyway, what we live on, and what I'm encouraging you to live on, if this is something that you're interested in, is the cash flow. So break down what is a cash out refinance. I have a home, I've paid it off, or I've got a lot of equity in it. In this case, this house got paid off. So this house was paid off in 31 months from purchasing it. And we had all of that equity. So the house had increased in value over those 4.5 years, and we're gonna pull that. Once we do this remodel, we're gonna pull that money out, and we've got to do something with it. So rather than spend it on bills and things like that, what we're going to do is put it on the next deal. Now, that payment now, because right now it doesn't have one. When that money is pulled out, that's a loan. So that payment is going to be deducted from the rent. So you have renters move in, they're paying you, do it for round numbers, $1,000 a month. That's not what this one will rent for, but just for round numbers. But $1,000 a month, and say your payment is $400 a month. Well, you're paying that $400 to the bank through your renters to pay back that equity amount that you pulled out of the house. The extra on top of that would be $600, because 600 plus 400, your payment, equals the $1,000 in rent you're getting. So that $600 is your cash flow. That is what you can live on. That cash flow is your rent minus your expenses. So that payment may not be, it's not your only expense. So you've got your payment, you've got your insurance, you've got taxes that you need to pull out for, you got vacancy that you want to pull out, 5% or so you want to pull out and just have for vacancies. Repairs, you want to have a repair fund. So of that $600, say you cut that in half. And I mean, there's a lot of different metrics. A lot of people use a lot of different things to be able to decide how much money they're going to pull out for that. But say it's half. So that $300 per month on this house, that's what you're able to live on. So you can spend that on whatever you want to. There's no paying back that $300 a month. And then even then, you know, when I posted that, people said, you know, how can you live on $300 a month? Well, you can't, obviously. That's where multiple units come into effect. This isn't our only rental, and we've got plans to have something really big happening here pretty soon. That's going to push us forward with a lot more units. So that's kind of what it is. You're going to the bank. You're saying, here's this house. This is what it's worth. This is what I owe on it. It's significantly less or nothing that I owe on it compared to what its value is. And I want to take that difference. And normally they'll give you 75 to 80%, maybe more, depending on where you're at. But they'll give you that amount of money because it's your equity. You pull that out, you do what you want with it. Now you can go buy a boat. It's not a wise decision, but you can do that. For me, I want to use that on the next deal because that creates then more cash flow, more equity where you can turn around and do the same thing. And you just keep growing from there. So that's what a cash out refinance is. Number 3, should I invest out of state? Now that's really subjective. If you're living in California and your minimum house price is $300,000, $200,000, and that's for a rental that's going to bring in $1,000 a month. And I'm just throwing out numbers. I don't live in California. I live in Tennessee. But whatever it is, right? If the numbers don't make sense where you live, then yeah, I mean, explore other markets. Look and see what the Midwest, something that we've looked into. We haven't done it yet, but we've looked at Indianapolis, Indiana. A lot of good deals there. Don't understand the market 100%, so we haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. We have really enough going on as it is right now locally that we really don't have to do that. But if it ever came down to the numbers didn't make sense where I lived, yes, I would look at other markets and see, you know, what those numbers look like. Of course, with that, you need property management. I manage personally ours by myself. I don't have a property management company as of yet, but it's just not something that I need at this point. But yeah, if I lived in a market where the numbers didn't make sense, I would look at markets that did. So number 4, how do you find good renters? That's a good one. So I've got a lot of systems in place to be able to make sure that I find the best renters possible. Really, living in a small town like I do, a lot of us know each other, so we kind of know who the good renters are, who's a not so good renter. It's very easy to get word of mouth of a bad renter and be able to talk to the other landlords and find out who we shouldn't rent to. But there's a lot of things. I mean, you can, to find them, I mean, list your property for rent. Go through those applications. You know, one of the safeguards that I have is an income requirement. So it's a lot less likely, not impossible, but it's a lot less likely that somebody who makes 3 times the rent is not going to pay. So if I have two applicants and the rent is, again, easy numbers, $1,000 a month. If application A makes $3,000 a month and application B makes $2,000 a month, the requirement that I have is that it make 3 times the rent. So the $3,000 a month is safer for me because it's less likely. Now, $3,000 a month that they make, they could have a lot more debt than the $2,000. So there's things that you've got to look through and make sure of, but that's just one of the requirements that I've got. Once you do find good renters, there's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you keep them. Number one, repair things as they need to be repaired. And I'm not talking about rushing over to, change a light bulb or something like that. But if you got a major repair, something that's annoying to the tenant, yes, you should fix that as quickly as possible. I've also got something that I do every now and then. It's kind of random and staggered through, but if the tenants don't have any late payments, if they pay on time or early for a certain amount of months, every now and then I'll just go to our local pizza place here, which is Pizza Hut, and dinner's on us tonight. And that's just a good way to, a lot of people aren't doing that. People aren't, they just don't care. Give me my money and, you can continue to live there. But just that little extra added piece, is, sometimes goes a long way. So they also get Christmas cards. When we send out Christmas cards, we actually hand deliver a lot of them that are local, some that are a little farther away. Like we've got one that's out of county, we'll send it out. But that's just another way. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. Sometimes we put money in there, sometimes we don't. It's random. It's up to you. But that's a good way to keep them once you do have them. Treat them with respect as they treat your house with respect. Okay, number 5. What if my bank won't finance? So that's I talked about that in the first question, really. My bank was the same way. My bank I'd been with since I was 16 years old. I opened my first checking account with them, and they were not interested in helping me build my portfolio or buy that first house, this first house. So, creative financing, that's the answer. What are you going to do? Are you going to let that stop you from being able to push forward? Well, no, of course not. There's a ton of options. Mine didn't have any credit cards at that time, but that's an option. If you get into creative financing and you understand and are disciplined with your credit cards, then there are options out there for you to be able to really put that amount on your credit card. I've seen people do it. Another option, the one that I used, was a private money. You can also use hard money. Look at the difference of those and do your research on that. But a lot of times if you just Google private money lenders or hard money lenders in my area, some places will pop up. Just vet them, make sure that they're legitimate and that they have references and all of that. Don't get caught up in some nonsense. With me, I was referred to this private money lender, and actually I built a really good relationship with him and his daughter as well, and we do a lot of business together. So just get creative. Google creative financing. There's owner financing. There's a ton of options. So don't just give up when the bank says no, because they will. How did you pay off your house in 31 months? So this was a big one. This is where people thought I wasn't being honest, but it's not true. With this house, we did pay it off in 31 months. We didn't do that through the rental income that came in. So kind of did and didn't. So the rental income definitely helped because that was paying down the balance, of course, but we also flipped a house and then paid off the remainder. So a good strategy, it's one we used in the very beginning. We would buy a house as a rental, put tenants in it, remodel it, all that. Then we would flip a house. We would buy a separate property, flip that house, make $20,000, $50,000, whatever it is on that particular property, right? And then put that towards paying off that first rental. So then, you take that little extra that's left, buy another rental, then do a flip. So that's something that we used in the very beginning. really effective, and it gives you an opportunity to have all your cash flow up front, and then turn into later on down the line, you can do a cash out if you want to. What if tenants don't pay? That's number 7. What if your tenants don't pay? So again, that's something that you have to put safeguards up for. I've had very little of that. I haven't had any of just non-payment. I've had some late payments, but with that, put in the safeguards. You don't want to be you don't want to be a jerk. You don't want to be a bad landlord that's just ready to kick somebody out because they don't pay you on the first of the month. That's not appropriate. But have your safeguards. Have it built into your lease, right? So if you're late on your payment past this day of the month, then there is a late fee. Look up for your state. Mine is specific for here, but it's an easy Google situation. So just see, what's the max late fee that you can charge for a late fee with a rental property. I'm going to make it the max, not because I want that money and not because I want those people to be out that money. I would rather it be a safeguard, used as a safeguard. That if you have no late, let's put it this way, if you have no late fee, then versus their TV provider who does have a late fee, or their water bill company that does have a late fee. If everything else has a late fee and you don't, I can promise you're going to be the last one to get paid. Everybody else is going to get paid, and the roof over their head, they're not going to worry about as much because there's no late fee. So, no, you don't want the money. No, you don't want to go around collecting money from people that didn't have enough money to pay you. I think that starts off with the income requirements. You don't want to have $1,000 rent being paid by somebody that makes, $1,500 a month. That's not okay. That's asking for trouble. That's asking for them not to be able to pay, and it's asking to put yourself really in a hard spot of taking somebody that doesn't make a whole lot of money and having to kick them out of your property. You don't want to do that. So I don't want to do that. Put it that way. But what if they don't pay? If they don't pay, then there's a late penalty, and it should all be in your lease. This is what happens if you don't pay on time. With COVID, there's a totally different, thing going on right now where you really can evict. You can't evict for non-payment, but if they're not paying and they're good people, you should work with them. And that's one thing that your cash reserves are for as well. So if you are operating even one property and you don't have money put aside for cash reserves for situations just like that, then you are asking for trouble. You're asking to lose your home, possibly your rental property. So always have those cash reserves as well, and just be mindful that things do happen. I'm not a heartless person. If my tenant has a situation where they can't work for a number of months and it hit their family, well, the last thing I'm gonna do is put somebody on the street in that situation. So you got to work through it. How much can you pay this month? What can we do? How can we at least make sure that you can pay your payment? Make a minimum. I've got to at least have this amount. And so that at least covers your mortgage payment. And maybe you don't get all of your cash flow that month, but you're surviving until things get back to normal. So that's one way. That's one thing. The last one, and I'm really excited about this because it was super weird, but one person asked me if I could help them get a car, a female at that. So I wanted to address that, along with, there was a lot of comments about my voice and people liking my voice, which is super weird to me, but that's what was on there. So I am married. Very happily. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary, so no, I can't help you with that car. And your thoughts on my voice are appreciated, but not necessary. So yeah, married happily, can't help you with the car. Didn't realize that I had an accent at all, and really until I made that video on TikTok, and people started asking where I was from and that my accent was strong. Didn't realize I even had an accent. Been here my whole life. This is how we talk. So that was interesting. It was fun. But so yeah, I just wanted to kind of answer a few of those questions. There were a ton more, but just wanted to hit a couple of them. So there's 8. Hope that was of some value to you. Appreciate all of you guys. A special welcome to the new TikTok followers and subscribers. I appreciate you guys too. I'll be putting more content on there as well. I see the value in that. I'm glad that you came on over and are getting some value here too. So with that being said, that's going to end it for this video. I hope the next one is being able to get these floors going. That's supposed to start this week. If you haven't been following that, just know these floors are a mess right now, but I've got my hardwood floor refinisher coming this week to get started on that. So look forward to being able to show you guys that and much more coming soon. Got a lot of really cool stuff happening. So thanks you guys.